The time is upon us to, of course, talk about the 1993 Civic, the SiR-II. This is the one which JDM fans were really waiting for, of course, in Gran Turismo 7 updates, up there with stuff like the Evo 9 and a couple of other JDM legends too. Unlike the Evo 9 though, this car never had a premium version in the history of Gran Turismo before, so as weird as it sounds, this is the first time we've ever had it with an interior in the game, which is nuts. And of course, for EG fans, you'll be riding high at the moment because not only is this, spoiler alert, a fantastic little car, even for someone like me who's not particularly even a Civic aficionado. There are some Civics that I do like, but I'm certainly not as versed as many are on them. But even me, I love the car. I think it's a fantastic little thing, and it goes back to my point that I've made so many times when you compare this to the Time Attack version. So again, EG fans really are riding high in GT7 with that and now this. That one is pretty much set in terms of what it's intended for, and you have to work within that parameter. You can make some changes, you can change its personality a bit, but that's pretty much what it is. Whereas with this one, it's more of a blank canvas. You could have a total sleeper, you could build a mini rally car, you can make it almost look like a mini-me version of the Time Attack car with a huge rear wing, etc. There's more availability to personalise it to your own taste, which is why, as I've said before, as long as you have good visual upgrades, most of us will choose a standard vehicle and then do what we want to it, rather than taking what someone else has already done and then working with that. In terms of what this one can do though, it's actually not far off the Time Attack version, even if you just upgrade the quote-unquote standard engine. It's already a great little engine in its own right, and of course the SiR-II does have, as pretty much any high-performance Civic does, a huge cult following when it comes to its engines. 167 horsepower stock. Again, put your mind back in 1993, that's a pretty hefty amount of power for something that doesn't even have Type R written on it, so it is an impressive bit of kit, and of course the weight is pretty low as well. 1,070 kilos is not much, and that combination is very strong. Even if you fast forward like a decade, 15 years later, that can still compete with hot hatches even without upgrades. In terms of pricing, it's just over 52 grand in the used dealer, something which I personally take issue with, to be honest, especially on a car with that kind of mileage, but whatever. In terms of the engine, of course, it's a VTEC, it's pretty obvious, comes with the territory. The point level is quite low, 396, but when you tune this thing up, which you can actually put a turbo on it as well, even without swapping the motor. Also, as I've said before, you can motor swap this straight off the bat, which is highly unusual for an update vehicle. You can put the Integra DC2 motor into it, which again has a massive fandom, and that's more my kind of thing. The DC2 Integra is my favourite JDM car of all, albeit in DB8 form for me. As you already know, it is of course front engine, front wheel drive, and of course naturally aspirated stock, but like I said, you can turbo it, which is a pretty refreshing thing to be able to do. A lot of cars kind of feel stuck with what you've got, or at least they did, especially toward the start of the game in GT7. You could supercharge some, you could turbo others, and some are just stuck to naturally aspirated. But even without the motor swap, it doesn't even feel like you particularly need it. It's so much fun, and one of the things that I hadn't really noticed before, at least as far as I can remember, but I really noticed it driving this and looking at it next to the other cars on the map, it's actually an unusually wide car for what it is. If you look at the shape of the Civic, and I know the previous generation, or at least a few generations back, it was called the bobsled, and this actually to me still has that kind of look. It's very low, it's very wide, of course it's not very long, but it has actually much more of a sports car shape, in a weird kind of way, than a hatchback. The two-door layout, the wide, squat stance, the surprisingly aerodynamic kind of profile, almost like a little shooting brake design that it has. It's not really boring hatchback kind of stuff, so it's not difficult to see why people find them attractive vehicles, even not in Type R form. To me, even as I am still not an aficionado of Civics, I can definitely see the appeal. You add on top of that the fact that they are probably, I would imagine, more affordable than a Type R. I haven't checked prices, but I should think so in real life. And of course, even more of a sleeper, although any JDM fan will immediately know what it is. But it's just such a versatile little car, and the fact that it's under 400 points stock means straight out of the box, it's already good. You tune it up even more, well, it becomes an absolute weapon. And as far as front-wheel drive platforms go, it is definitely, I would say, one of the most versatile and one of the strongest all-round ones in the game, certainly when you factor in how broad its point level compatibility is. It's fast in the low levels, and it's fast in the higher levels. It will of course be interesting to see what happens in future with regard to motor swaps on this one. I don't necessarily see them adding another one because of having that Integra swap already, but I also don't feel like many fans would necessarily need another motor swap. If you want an EG with way more horsepower, horsepower, you could just fall back on the time attack. And like I said, I not only prefer this one, I honestly think this is a way better handling car than the time attack version, which is insane. And of course that car does immediately have more power to deal with, but even so, you put this up to a similar level, and to me it still handles better. Overall though, that's it for my thoughts on the SiR-II Civic. Of course, a legend returns and looks better than it ever did before, that's for sure. So give me your thoughts down below, and of course there's only one vehicle left to talk about, the Volvo V40, which we'll be covering tomorrow. So stick around for that, and until next time I'll see you then. But for now, thanks for watching.